Welcome back to Impactful Teamwork, and I'm Julia Felton, your host. And in the last few weeks, I have really been immersing myself in the world of AI and how I can start using this in my business. And let me just tell you, if you feel like me, if you feel like the ground is constantly shifting beneath your feet as a leader right now, it absolutely is. It isn't a blip. I think that we are going through a full-scale reset of business with the context of AI. We're living actually through one of the most volatile business environments we have ever been in. None of us have experienced this before, and that's leading to large degrees of uncertainty for people. And we only have to look at the data to see that this is true. In the last decade, 20% of global companies have gone out of business. 30% are seeing declining revenues right now. And of the original Fortune 500, over half have already disappeared since the year 2000. So just think about that. Half of the companies have already gone. And of course, it doesn't stop there right now. Right now, we are seeing massive layoffs. 30,000 people at UPS, 30,000 people at Oracle, and thousands more across tech, consulting, and beyond. And the tension is exacerbated because inside organizations, teams are being asked to deliver more with less people and under this threat of constant change. And I think it's so interesting when we think about change because a few years ago, a big change initiative meant there were maybe only one or two change initiatives happening a year. And big change initiatives like incorporating an SAP system, for example. Yet the research shows us that today, the average team member is dealing with 10, yes, 10 major changes at once. So no wonder our team members feel overwhelmed. No wonder they feel stretched. So I think perhaps the misnomer going on is that business is under so much pressure. And yes, it is, but it's not really about the pressure per se, but it's about the pace of reinvention. Because the old models that worked in business and have run it for decades have disappeared. We only have to look at the average life cycle of a business. This used to be 60 to 75 years. You, like me, might have grown up in the era when my dad said to me, get a job and it will be a job for life. But nowadays, those companies just aren't staying in existence for as long as we live. In fact, the average life cycle of a company right now is about 3 years before it needs to reinvent. So we're entering an era of continual reinvention where you have to continually actively reinvent the business. Because if you don't, you'll soon be drifting towards irrelevance. And yet, this is the irony. Most leaders I work with are trying to optimize, they're trying to tweak and trying to redefine. Whereas what is actually required is something a lot braver, far more courageous, and that is reinvention. And by reinvention, we don't mean throwing out the baby and the bathwater. We mean let's take the best of what worked and adapt and change it so it works in the world that we are in today. So what I thought I'd do in this week's edition of Impactful Teamwork is walk you through 15 ways to reinvent your business. And this isn't from theory, but this is from what's actually shifting in the world right now. And a lot of this data comes from the Reinvention Academy, an organization that I'm a practitioner with. Because we've been having a lot of conversations about how the world of consulting is shifting right now and the way that we've seen a lot of layoffs at the big consultancy companies like McKinsey and Deloitte and KPMG. All of these companies are redefining their consultancy offer. just in the same way that all businesses or many businesses out there are really shifting the way they have to work. We've got to incorporate AI into our business because it can make our businesses operate so much more effectively. And in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to do a podcast on the new mindset shift that's needed around the adoption of AI and how AI is actually requiring us to be a lot more transparent and to have a lot more trust in the process than ever before. Because the thing is right now is if we don't reinvent and we don't adapt and we don't start mastering how we can leverage AI in our business, we aren't going to survive. So it's really interesting. I've also been out a lot with the horses this week. And one of the really interesting things about the horses is they don't respond to pressure, but they do respond to alignment, clarity, energy, and congruence. And if something's off, they don't move. And this is the same thing that I've been seeing in teams as well recently. When the business model is out of sync, when the way that you as a business creates value no longer fits in the world, then everything slows down. We get this decision drag. We see drops in energy and trust gets shaky. So today I want to give you a different way of seeing the world. Because I think we often think about reinvention as being one big thing, but actually it's a series of small intentional shifts that you can make in your business right now. And we are going to look at 15 ways that you can reinvent your business. And I'd like you to look at these not from a perspective of overwhelm. Oh my God, Julia, there's 15 ways to reinvent. How could I ever do that? But use this as a lens to see where your business might be out of alignment right now. So these 15 ways. The first way is around products and services. So the old way was sell what we've always sold, and the new way is let's adapt to what's needed now. So that might mean moving from a fixed offering to something that's more modular and flexible, or maybe bundling services into outcome-based packages. One of the things we were just talking about in the consulting world is companies now and company leaders are just so overwhelmed. And actually, what they are looking for right now is a product and service that's just going to take the pain away. They need lots of really quick wins rather than a massive, you'll get a win in 18 months because people are feeling pain right now. So how can you restructure your products and services so that people are getting lots of quick wins really quickly? The second way is around your platform. The old way was one-way delivery. And what I'm really seeing now is companies moving into this situation of creating an ecosystem. What are ecosystems of solutions that can really help our clients? So we want to think about how do we build platforms when clients continually engage with us, not just once. So in other words, how are we creating the long-term value of a customer? So I'd like you to think about how you can build communities, marketplaces, digital hubs. People right now are craving connection more than ever. And the thought of having a community is so important for people to also get support and realize that they're not alone on this journey of what is happening in business right now. The third way that we can reinvent our business is look at new solutions. So the old way was that we sold pieces, and the new way is how do we solve the whole problem? How do we look at the whole ecosystem? How do we find a really holistic solution to the problem? Because we all know right now that everything in business is interconnected and interdependent. So actually, if we just solve one bit, we need to appreciate if we are going to do that, that it's going to have a ripple impact on the rest of the business. This is why we really want to look at a really holistic and ecosystem approach to problems. And we want our solutions to be implementation driven. We need the solutions to make a difference for a customer right now, not in the future. The fourth way we can reinvent our business is look at our customers. I think right now we really need to double down on who is our ideal customer avatar. What niche are they in? And where can we go and meet our customers where we can provide the most value to them? Because there's still so many businesses out there that think they can serve everybody. And I know we all like to think that, and particularly in the consulting and coaching world, we can be our own worst enemies at thinking, oh, I can help all of these different people. But actually, when we let go of the notion that we can serve everyone, we can serve that select few brilliantly, and then we can make a really exponential impact in the world. Fifth way to reinvent your business is let's look at the customer experience. And we're seeing a massive shift happen now in customer experience. In the old way, it was very transactional. But right now, customers are demanding experiences. They want experiential learning, for example. So a great example of this is Harley Davidson, the motorbike manufacturer. The product is actually secondary to the identity and the experience that you get when you don on your Harley Davidson biker jacket and you get on that motorcycle. And I think also when we're talking about customer experience, we also want to think about the customer journey and how we can take that customer on a journey from A to B, and what are the touch points along the way that are going to make the difference so that the customer always feels heard and recognized and appreciated along the way. Revenue streams is the sixth way that we can reinvent. And this is something that I think we've known for a while, but we always talk about one income stream. And I get that. I get the value of having one income stream. We can become a master in it. But multiple flows of income is a much better model to use. So how do we keep getting the customer coming back? So we can have things like subscription models, things like a Spotify or a Netflix, a subscription model, something that's recurring income. Or we can look at ways that we can create our product and maybe sell it on a pay-per-use model. That could create a different revenue stream. So how can you take the one thing you've done and create multiple revenue streams around it? It could be that you have an online product, an in-person experience, a community, and a mastermind, for example. All of those have different revenue streams. And actually, for a business, multiple revenue streams is really smart because, for example, if something happens to one revenue stream, you therefore have others in place. I know for a lot of entrepreneurs, we have multiple revenue streams so that if our business fails in one area or the demand in one particular area falls, we've got some redundancy in that we also have revenue coming in from other streams. So in my own particular business right now, I have my leadership development company, boutique consultancy company that you're familiar with me for, that provides leadership development both with and without the horses. So there's two different revenue streams there. I'm also head of partnerships for a tech company as well that provides the most amazing behavioral profiling tools that very neatly sit alongside the leadership development work I do. And I've recently just taken on a new role where I'm going to be actually leading in-person events for a women's group to help those women grow and develop their businesses. So I've now got 3 different revenue streams coming into my business. So that's one of the ways I've been reinventing. 7th way we can reinvent is through process. So in the old ways, we had very rigid work systems. But the new way is all about how do we create adaptive systems? How can we reduce the friction? And how can we design for speed and decision making rather than control? And for a lot of business leaders, this is quite challenging. How do we give up that level of control and have that level of adaptability that we need so we can be agile and respond in the moment to what's going on? Eighth way you might want to reinvent your business is through the organization and the culture. So the old form of organizations was this hierarchy, and we still see that around a lot today. But I'd like to suggest to you the new way of reinventing your business and organizing your business is around teamship. And this is where trust and energy and curiosity are aligned, and people don't wait, they move. We put together the best teams for the projects that need to be done, and the leadership is shared across those teams. And if you want to know more about how teamship works in your business, please do send me a note and check out my Unbridled Teamship Roadmap. Ninth way is around supply chains. And in the old days, it was all about efficiency. How do we get the supply chain to be as efficient as possible? But the new way is all around flexibility and resilience. We've seen right now, and we are currently experiencing right now, a massive disruption to the supply chain in terms of oil. So how do we have a new flexible approach that can keep us moving during these difficult times when it's struggling to get our oil out of Iran and Iraq? So from the supply chain's perspective, it might mean that you want to have multiple suppliers. So you have a diverse opportunity for where to get your, in this case, oil and gas from. And you also might want to build optionality into your system. So if you can't do A, can you do B? If you can't do B, can you do C? And this is where the adaptability comes in as well. The 10th way to reinvent is around markets and presence. The old way was that you stayed where you were, that you stayed maybe in your back garden, your local environment, and you just worked there. But now we're really thinking about how can we expand our businesses strategically? How can we move into adjacent markets? Or how can we digitize access to remove geographic limits? So we've seen in the last few years a huge amount of globalization as a number of companies and brands have moved to be worldwide. And they've been able to do that because they've been able to digitalize products so that they can be sent to multiple regions of the world. But this moving into adjacent markets is really interesting. How do we take an idea that works in market A and then take it into market B and see what happens? And it makes me think about a product that I've been watching and following on the internet recently, which is a product around a detergent where the founders saw an amazing product. It was basically a dissolvable sheet that became your laundry detergent. They'd taken that idea that was in the US, brought it here to the UK, and first of all created the UK's first dissolvable washing machine powder, for want of a different terminology. And they're now taking that into other cleaning products within your house so that they're removing any of the micro plastics that will have been left to date by a lot of the existing providers in the market. So that's a great example of moving into an adjacent market and also changing the geographic limit. The 11th way to reinvent is around network and distribution. So the old ways were all about let's do it alone. But nowadays, everything is about let's partner to scale. How do we do it? What's the collective? This need for collaboration. We see this a lot in internet marketing with affiliate models where we get other people to sell stuff for you. That's a way we can improve our distribution. Another way is what we saw a lot of this come out, particularly during COVID, but companies like Airbnb that are connecting the supply and the demand. So they're peer-to-peer platforms. They're improving that distribution. Because in the old days, it was quite difficult if you had a room to rent or a cottage that you wanted to rent out, how to actually find the potential buyers for that product and service. But platforms like Airbnb, they do that matching for you. Sixth way to reinvent is really think about what does your brand stand for? Because in the old days, we were looking at what is the messaging of our brand. And I'd like to suggest that today, we really need to be thinking about what is the meaning of your brand? What is the impact your brand wants to make? Because remember, our brand is what people say about us when we're not in the room. And our brand reflects our reputation. So it's really important that our brand stands for something and people understand what our brand needs. And consumers nowadays are looking to work with purpose-driven brands that are going to make a difference in the world. And this links on nicely to number 13, which is all about purpose and vision. Companies today share their purpose and vision with their customers. Their customers buy into that. And that is what makes them successful. As I said, people want to buy products and services from companies that want to make a different impact in the world and do something differently. And purpose and vision is not just for our customers, it's also for our team members. How do we get them galvanized around something bigger than the usual KPIs and targets that they want? And when we create this meaning, it creates momentum within the business. And that's what helps our business move forward. 14th reinvention strategy is around culture as a system. Culture is no longer a nice to have in your business. Culture is actually the performance engine that makes everything happen. Within the culture, we need to reward experimentation, reward the try. If you haven't seen my 20-minute teaching on reward the try, please check it out on YouTube. This is all about how do we create a culture that's psychologically safe so that people actually want to contribute. They want to experiment. They want to try new things. Because only if we've got a culture like that will people then start trying to reinvent and do new things when they know there is going to be no repercussions for those things maybe not working out. Let's face it, we're in an environment where we have never been before. Nobody knows the rules of the game. Nobody knows what may or may not happen. So we need to keep experimenting to see what lands and what doesn't. And maybe something lands today, but in a few weeks it doesn't. So this is why we need to continually keep reinventing to make sure that we've got the most adaptable solution in place. And the 15th and the final reinvention is the why. Why do we create this value? This is at the center of everything. And it's so important. It links back to purpose and values that we were just talking about there. But when we create the value and people understand what our business is all about and why we are doing it and what the differences we want to make, then this speeds everything up. Decisions speed up, the team starts aligning, and energy returns to the system. And actually, this is what we see in nature all the time. No confusion, no overthinking, just aligned movements. So, just to be clear, I'm not expecting you to adopt all 15 reinvention ideas I've just shared with you, but have a real think about them and think about which ones are most aligned for you. Because when you shift how you see your business, you shift how it behaves. Because reinvention only works when trust removes the friction, energy creates the execution, and curiosity drives the adaptation. And without this, reinvention just becomes another initiative. And your team, they're already overwhelmed. They don't need another initiative. They need something instead. They need something different. They need to feel part of something, to feel part of contributing to something more than them. So imagine instead a situation where your team doesn't wait for permission, decisions don't get stuck, and people take ownership. Where energy starts to flow throughout the organization, momentum builds, and reinvention becomes natural. It's not forced. It's what we just do day in, day out. So here's my challenge to you for this week. Don't try and fix everything. Pick one or two things from one of those 15 areas that I've just shared with you and ask, where are you still operating in the old way? And if you're not sure where you're operating in the old way, I invite you to take the Turbocharge Your Team quiz. You'll find it at businesshorsepower.com/quiz. Go there, take that, and then hop on a call with me, and I will help you figure out which of these areas you need to start focusing on first. Because as we said, if we change the business model, we change the results. Because here's the truth, folks. You don't need more effort in your business. You just need a new lens, a new way to see things. And when that shifts, everything moves. So until next week, have an amazing time. Please feel free to share with me the way that you're reinventing your business. And if you'd like some help, please do reach out to me. I love sharing the tools to help businesses reinvent in a way that is very organic and natural and doesn't feel like another project you have to do. It's like, how do we start embedding reinvention into everything we do within the business? So until next week, bye-bye.